Imagine you just hit $1 million. You worked for it. Saved for it. Maybe sold something, or invested early, or just ground it out for 20 years. And now it's real. 7 figures. The number people talk about at dinner tables like it's the finish line. Here's the thing nobody tells you. You're not even in the same game yet. $1 billion is not 1,000 times better than $1 million. It is not a scaled-up version of the same life. It is a fundamentally different category of existence, with different rules, different problems, and different physics. And understanding the gap between those two numbers might be the most clarifying thing you do today. Because most people get this completely wrong. Let's start with the math, because the math is where things get strange. $1 million. Let's say you invested conservatively, index funds, maybe some bonds, and earn about 7% a year. That's $70,000 annually. Before tax. In a lot of places in the world, that's a comfortable income. You're not private jet comfortable. You're not call your accountant in 3 countries comfortable. But you're okay. You still have to think about money. Now scale that to 1 billion. Same 7% return. That's $70 million a year. That is $1.3 million every single week. That is $190,000 a day, whether you wake up or not, whether you work or not, whether the market's open or not. But here's the part people skip over. Getting from 1 million to 1 billion isn't a matter of saving harder or investing smarter. The strategies that build $1 million and the strategies that build $1 billion are so different they're almost opposites. And the transition between the two involves a complete psychological and structural rewiring of how you relate to money, risk, and power. Let's go back to the millionaire first. Because it's worth understanding what $1 million actually is, structurally. In most cases, a first-generation millionaire got there through accumulation. They earned income. They spent less than they earned. They invested the difference. Maybe they built a business and sold it. The mechanism is additive. You stack. You compound. You wait. It takes decades, or a lucky exit, or both. The mental model is conservation. Don't lose what you have. Protect the number. Make it grow slowly. This is a defensive posture. And it works. But it has a ceiling. Because the second law of accumulation wealth is this: money that you've already earned has a diminishing rate of return on your time. Spending another decade grinding to grow from 1 million to 5 million means you are still exchanging your time, your energy, your attention, for a relatively modest increment. The machine requires you. The billionaire has a different machine entirely. The leap from multimillionaire to billionaire almost never happens through savings. It almost never happens through a salary. It happens through one mechanism: ownership of something that scales. A business. A platform. A network. Real estate in the right place at the right time. Or, increasingly, equity in a company that grows to dominate a market. The difference is this. A millionaire largely owns assets. A billionaire owns systems that produce assets, at scale, autonomously, faster than any individual could create them. Consider the rough arc of someone like Jeff Bezos in the 1990s. There was a point when Amazon was losing money, when the stock was volatile, when Bezos was technically a millionaire on paper. Then something changed. The platform crossed a threshold. The flywheel spun. And the mechanism stopped requiring proportional input. The wealth began compounding at a rate that had almost nothing to do with individual effort. That's the structural shift. You stop trading time for money. You own something that prints money while you sleep, and more importantly, while other people sleep, work, spend, and exist inside the system you built or bought. Now here's where it gets philosophically uncomfortable. Once you cross a certain threshold, somewhere in the hundreds of millions, something shifts in how money works for you. Economists have a term for this. It's called the point of diminishing marginal utility. In plain language, it means that beyond a certain level of wealth, more money stops making you meaningfully happier. The 100th million adds less happiness than the first. But here's the twist. While the personal utility of money decreases, its systemic power does not. In fact, it increases, exponentially. $1 billion doesn't just buy things. It buys access to deals that are never publicly offered. It buys the ability to make investments so large they move markets. It buys political attention, legal insulation, time, privacy, silence. This is the irony at the center of the ultra-wealth machine. The people who have the least use for more money in their personal lives are precisely the ones whose money generates the most power and more money. The system becomes self-reinforcing at a level that most financial education doesn't even acknowledge. Let's talk about what actually changes in daily life. For a millionaire, money is still a constraint. Not a brutal one, hopefully, but a real one. You fly commercial, probably in business class if things are going well. You own a nice house, maybe two. You have a good accountant and a decent financial advisor. When something breaks, it's annoying. When a big expense comes up, you plan for it. You still check your bank account. For a billionaire, money is no longer a constraint. It becomes infrastructure. You don't buy a house. You have someone manage your real estate portfolio across 4 countries. You don't book flights. There is a person whose job is logistics, and that person has a team. Your health is managed proactively by a physician on retainer, not reactively by whoever is in network. Your legal exposure is handled by a full-time law firm. Your children's education is not a cost you save toward, it's a variable in a generational wealth strategy. The texture of daily life becomes, paradoxically, simpler. You don't make small decisions because small decisions have been delegated to systems that handle them invisibly. The cognitive load of money decreases even as the money itself becomes incomprehensibly large. This is not necessarily what people imagine when they imagine being rich. Most people imagine being a wealthier version of themselves, same life, fewer worries. That's a millionaire's fantasy. A billionaire is something structurally different. And this is where the risks get interesting. Because once you are operating at billion-dollar scale, the risks are no longer personal. They become systemic, reputational, political, and civilizational. A millionaire who makes a bad investment loses money. They can recover. They have time. A billionaire who makes a bad investment can destroy a company, crash a sector, eliminate thousands of jobs, trigger regulatory scrutiny, or ignite a media cycle that runs for years. The blast radius of their decisions is enormous. And the bigger the fortune, the more exposed the person becomes, not physically, necessarily, but structurally. Governments notice you. Tax authorities study you. Competitors analyze you. Journalists investigate you. Your philanthropy gets scrutinized. Your divorce gets analyzed as a macro event. Your tweets move markets. There's a certain kind of freedom that exists between 1 and 10 million that quietly disappears somewhere around 100 million and is completely gone by a billion. You become, in some meaningful sense, too large to hide. There's also a stranger effect that almost no one talks about. At a certain level of wealth, you lose the ability to receive honest feedback. The people around you are, in most cases, economically dependent on your approval. Your employees need your goodwill. Your advisors need your retainer. Your social circle has been, gradually and almost invisibly, filtered to include mostly people who either want something from you or fear offending you. You can still hear words, but you stop hearing truth. This is why ultra-wealthy decision-making looks, from the outside, increasingly erratic, grandiose, or disconnected from reality as fortunes grow. It is not always that the person has changed. It is often that their information environment has been completely distorted by the gravitational pull of their own wealth. No one tells them when they are wrong. And so they stop being wrong, in their own minds, with increasing frequency. So let's zoom out for a moment. The gap between 1 million and 1 billion is not 10 years of compounding. It is not a longer version of the same journey. It is a fundamental change in what money is, what it does, and what it costs you. At 1 million, money is a resource. At 100 million, money is leverage. At 1 billion, money is power. And power, in every era of human history, changes people, not always for better, not always for worse, but always completely. The fascinating thing is that we live in a period where more individuals have crossed the billion-dollar threshold than at any other point in recorded history. In 2024, there were roughly 3,000 billionaires on the planet. A number that has more than doubled in under 2 decades. Which means this transition, from wealthy individual to something more like a private sovereign, is happening at scale, in real time, with almost no shared framework for understanding what it means. For the people living it. For the society surrounding them. And for the systems that were designed, a long time ago, when this kind of concentrated private wealth was largely theoretical. Here's the question that doesn't have a clean answer. When does personal wealth become public power? And who decides what happens when those two things conflict? The millionaire exists within systems, tax systems, legal systems, social systems. The billionaire increasingly exists alongside them, and sometimes above them. Whether that is a feature of modernity or a flaw in it, whether it produces innovation or capture, whether the concentration of that much private decision-making in that few private hands is sustainable or inevitable, no one, right now, agrees. But the math is not ambiguous. A billion is not a million with more zeros. It is a different country. With no elections, no term limits, and, at the moment, no map.